everyone! If you're expecting a child, or maybe just planning to, I'm sure you've spent a lot of time thinking about what to eat, right? But what if when you eat is just as important? Today, we're going to explore how our modern habit of constant eating during pregnancy might just have some unintended consequences for both mother and baby.
We've all heard this, haven't we? It's a phrase that comes from such a place of love and care. I mean, the intention is beautiful, right? You want to provide every bit of nourishment a growing baby could possibly need. This whole idea of eating for two, it's just so deeply ingrained in our culture, and for generations, it's exactly what's guided expectant mothers.
And this is the question that's at the very heart of what we're talking about today. You see, new science is suggesting that by focusing only on what we eat, we might be missing a huge piece of the puzzle, the importance of giving the body time to rest between meals. So let's take a look at why the timing of your food could be a total game changer for a healthy pregnancy.
Okay, so let's start by digging into this idea of constant eating. In this first section, we're going to unpack why this habit, which feels so normal in our modern lives, with snacks and food available 24/7, might actually be a pretty new problem for our bodies, especially during a time as demanding as pregnancy.
Think of it like this. Your digestive system is one of the hardest working systems in your entire body. So when you're constantly eating, breakfast, then a mid-morning snack, lunch, an afternoon snack, dinner, maybe a late-night bite, that system never, ever gets a break. It is always on. And all that constant work prevents the body from switching over to its other critical jobs, like repairing cells and managing inflammation. Now, during pregnancy, when the body is already under the immense stress of building a new life, this period of rest and repair becomes even more vital.
So what actually happens inside the body when it doesn't get that crucial digestive rest? In this section, we're going to break down the biological chain reaction, step by step.
One of the biggest risks of this constant eating pattern is a condition called gestational diabetes. Now, here's an interesting thing. During any pregnancy, a woman's body naturally becomes a little more resistant to insulin. That's actually a brilliant adaptation that's designed to make more glucose, or sugar, available in the bloodstream to nourish the growing baby. The problem starts when this natural state gets pushed too far by a continuous supply of food, which keeps those blood sugar levels high all the time.
And this creates a really clear domino effect. First, the body's cells start to become less responsive to insulin. That's what insulin resistance is. Second, because insulin isn't working so well, the excess sugar in the blood gets converted into fat, and that process triggers an inflammatory response. And third, that high sugar environment in the mother's body is passed directly through the placenta to the fetus.
This brings us to a really key problem, chronic inflammation. We usually think of inflammation as a good thing, right? Like the swelling that helps heal a cut. But this is completely different. This is a low-grade, constant state of emergency, where the immune system is always activated. And instead of healing, this state starts to wear down the body, causing damage to healthy cells. It's kind of like a fire alarm that is just always blaring in the background.
And this inflammation directly impacts the developing baby. For instance, it can damage blood vessels and reduce the blood flow to the placenta, which can hinder growth. It can also program the baby's immune system to be oversensitive, potentially leading to things like allergies down the road. These inflammatory signals can even cross the placental barrier and affect the very delicate process of brain development.
Now, along with inflammation, there's another troublemaker, oxidative stress. The simplest way to think about this is like cellular rust. It's damage that's happening at a microscopic level. And this rusting process gets accelerated by eating lots of processed foods, chemical additives, and unhealthy fats. Often the very things we reach for when we're eating constantly and just need something convenient.
The consequences of this cellular rust are pretty serious, especially for a developing baby. With cells dividing at such an incredible rate, their DNA is particularly vulnerable to this kind of damage. This stress can also affect the uterus and placenta, which increases the risk of premature birth. And critically, it can even harm the mitochondria. Those are the tiny power plants inside every single cell, and that can potentially affect the baby's metabolic health for their entire life.
This brings us to our third section. See, the effects we've been discussing aren't just about the 9 months of pregnancy. We're now beginning to understand that what happens in the womb can create an echo that reverberates not just throughout the child's life, but potentially into the next generation too. The science behind all this is called epigenetics, and it is a fascinating field. If you think of your DNA, your genes, as the body's hardware, then epigenetics is like the software. The hardware doesn't change, but the software, which is influenced by things like diet and stress, tells the hardware which programs to run.
it can actually switch genes on or off.
So this means the environment in the womb, which is heavily influenced by the mother's diet and her metabolic state, is actively writing this software for the baby. A constant high-sugar, high-inflammation environment can flip genetic switches that program the child for health challenges down the road. And this is not about blaming mothers. It's about understanding the profound power of that prenatal environment.
And these genetic switches can have some really long-term consequences. For example, a baby's metabolism might get programmed to be thrifty, which makes it very efficient at storing fat. This increases the risk of obesity and diabetes later in life. In brain development, research is starting to explore potential links to conditions like ADHD. And like we mentioned, the immune system can be programmed for a higher risk of allergies and even autoimmune disorders.
Okay, I know that after covering all those risks, it's easy to feel a little worried. But this final section is all about the solution. And the good news is that it's not about perfection or some punishing diet. It's about something much simpler and, I think, much more powerful. It's about finding the pause.
Let's be very clear about this. This is not about drastic fasting or depriving yourself of food, which can absolutely be dangerous during pregnancy. The solution is simply about creating meaningful time between your meals. It's about giving your body the space it needs to rest, repair, and reset its metabolic balance. It's about rediscovering a natural rhythm of eating and not eating.
I mean, the difference is pretty stark. On one side, you have the body under constant stress, and inflammation levels are high. On the other side, just by introducing some pauses, you give the body time to rest and repair. Inflammation is reduced, and you create a much healthier, more protective environment for your baby to grow and develop in.
So how can you do it? Well, here are some simple, practical steps. You could try to create a space of about 5 to 6 hours between your main meals, which probably means reducing or eliminating snacks. Try to avoid eating late at night to give your body a nice long overnight break, maybe 12 hours or more. And of course, reducing processed foods and sugars will help stabilize your blood sugar. But, and this last point is the most important one, always talk to your doctor or a qualified healthcare provider before making any significant changes to your diet during pregnancy. This is about working with them to find a healthy rhythm that is right for you and your baby.
Ultimately, this is all about a shift in perspective. Creating time without food isn't a restriction. It's not about taking something away. It's about giving your body the time it needs to create the healthiest possible environment for your baby. It is a foundational gift of lifelong health. It truly is the time that protects life. Thanks for joining me.